Finally back in. Sorry for the mistake with the camera. There was a bit of a problem there. Hopefully I'm still in the same stream. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, so probably nobody's here because I had to restart the stream with a different link because it just wasn't working. So there you go. Never mind. Sorry about that. Okay, so today we're doing day 2 of the artist restarter. So let's go. Today we're actually starting with some portraits because this week is the portrait week. So we're gonna be practicing heads in different perspectives and then practicing to draw one portrait. Unfortunately, as I was saying, yeah, the whole stream started a bit funny because my camera wasn't working. I don't know why it wasn't linking in my Streamlabs, which is the software that I use to stream. So now I'm having to do it on a different link where nobody's on, but never mind, that's fine. I'm just gonna quickly change the link on my Instagram stories and I'll be back in 1 second. Sorry guys. Okay, so I'm actually back. Let's go. So today's practice is going to be drawing 10 blank faces in different perspectives and drawing one portrait from a reference photo that you like, I like, whatever. So if you want to join me, let's go. So usually when I have to do some figure drawing, gesture drawing, I just need some references or want to do some practice, I use this website. It's called Sketch Daily, and it's basically a website where you can select different options for photo references. So for example, today I just want to draw heads, so I'm gonna select body part, heads, and then I don't care about the gender or the view, and you can select how long you want these heads to be on screen. So for example, I put 1 minute and then you press start and you'll see lots of different photos sort of like popping up. So I'm just gonna put this on my other screen so that I can actually draw on this one. And as I was saying yesterday, my brush of choice for sketching is there you go, Kyle's Drawing Box Animator Pencil. I usually select in this little box here, which means that the pressure that I apply on my stylus defines how big the sign will be. Usually put the size up a little bit because for sketching I like to have a rather large sign. There you go. I mean 20 maybe is a bit too much, maybe 15 or something. As I was saying yesterday, a little bit of smoothing, it's not a problem, and I do tend to put the flow up a little bit. The flow is basically how much ink is going through your brush, so if the sign is going to be more defined or less defined. And I'm using Photoshop CC, which is my tool of choice for this practice. Okay, so I'm just gonna be drawing 10 blank faces. A blank face means that I'm just gonna be drawing basically a circle to signify the top part of the head, then separated with a middle vertical parting to define the turn of the head, basically, a middle horizontal parting to define the tilt of the head. So if it's upward, it means that the head is looking up. If it's downward, it means that it's looking down, etc. And then just connect these two parts with a triangle for the jaw. Of course, it's not going to be a triangle, especially if you want to do something a little bit more realistic, but for my taste and my style, a triangle is good enough. And then I just put the ears just because they give a little bit more definition and landmarks to understanding how this face is actually facing in the space. And then just complete the back of the head, and yeah, and maybe just put the neck there, and that's it. This is a blank head. That's what I mean by blank. So now I'm going to follow the photo references that I'm finding on Sketch Daily, and I'm going to draw 10 of them. This has to be, really quick. Doesn't need to be a scary, thing that you think, oh my god, it's gonna take so long. It doesn't need to be that. It's literally just a very quick practice to warm up in the morning. Also, this morning I woke up with my dog throwing up on the floor, which was not nice. Unfortunately, he was a little bit sick, which is sad. Sometimes he's a little bit sick in the morning. I guess it happens to anybody. I don't know if he got a little bit of a bug or maybe something that he ate didn't agree with him. And if you find that you occupying too much space on your canvas, you can just, use the scale tools. And sometimes I just quickly use the lasso tool to change the location, and then you can make more space for one more head on the line. So as I was saying yesterday, during day 1 of the artist reStarter, my goal this month is to push out of my comfort zone and draw in a more cartoony way. So I like to push my shapes a little more. So, I mean, in terms of this practice, I'm probably like not doing a terribly good job of that, because I'm using rather realistic sort of proportions, I think. But for the next portrait, where I'm gonna take a little bit more time doing it, I'm gonna try and be more cartoony. I mean, this is more like as I was saying, this is more like just a very quick warm-up. So it's okay if it doesn't have any specific style, It's more like just so that you can practice some heads and different angles. It's interesting how I think you can still understand which ones were girls' reference photos and which ones were guys, just because of the size of the neck and the kind of the shape of the jaw. Trying to find a slightly different angle, so that at least, I was working a little bit harder on this. Okay, so as you can see, by the end of the practice, I'm actually starting to add a little bit more of a cartoony spin to this, changing the proportion a little bit more. And there we go. These are my 10 faces. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's incredible how, like, from the first one to the last one, you can already see a big difference, I think, in terms of how cartoony it is, how I was able to kind of like push my shapes a little bit more, be a little bit more confident. So definitely, I think that's a great practice in the morning, to just be super quick. Put your daily, like reference daily here. I think you should put this to 30 seconds, like 30 seconds intervals, because it really helps you with just being quick and making sure. I mean, at the start it's gonna sound terrible and it's gonna feel like you're not gonna be able to do this, but I promise you, it's better if you try, even if you can't, actually draw the whole thing, just try and keep it quick. Otherwise, you'll never improve your speed, basically. So, okay, so that's exercise 1 done. Draw 10 blank faces in different perspective. And now I'm going to go with exercise 2. As you can see here, I have this reference photo that I got off Pinterest, because exercise 2 is to draw a portrait that you like, basically, from a reference photo that you like. And I just found this photo just earlier on when I was looking for materials for this session, and I just like this photo. I'm not sure who this model is. I'm sorry that I can't credit her, but if anybody knows, just pop it in the comments. And yeah, I just found it on Pinterest. I can leave the link on Pinterest for the photo reference. So yeah, the way that I want to approach this portrait, again, kind of quick, it's not like a 1-hour portrait where I'm gonna sit down and do a realistic thing. I want to try and be more cartoony, push my shapes a bit more. So I'm gonna go either with this one or this one, mostly because I think that straight on portraits are kind of boring, and also in terms of the 3D sort of feeling of the image, they are worse because you're just seeing, like straight on. Every portrait that you do, if you give like a slight 3/4 sort of profile tilt to the head, it's going to look better. And it's going to look more dynamic, even though it's just a portrait, it's just like a steady sort of not dynamic reference photo. So yeah, I'm going to go with this one probably. So again, I just start with my circle. And then my middle parting. And I think this model has a really cute face, but really round, kind of almost like a heart shaped, kind of like. And her nose is kind of like coming through and having like a tangent with the side of her face. And because I'm trying to be more cartoony, which is really hard for me, I'm trying to come out of my realistic proportions kind of shell, and it's so hard. And like her lips are actually escaping from the side of her face, from the silhouette of the side of the face. Okay, so this is definitely too realistic for what I wanted to do. So hard. So I need to scramble up these proportions a little bit more, I think. So I'm gonna use my trusted lasso tool and try and scramble up these proportions a little bit more. Maybe I can make the lower part of the face a little bit smaller, or maybe a bit bigger. No, a bit smaller, I think. So to make something more cartoony and more pushed in terms of shapes, what you can do is to scramble up the proportions even more. And kind of like and just kind of like cartoonize them even more, make them more similar to their abstract shapes, basically. So for example, the mouth can become more of a triangle. And exaggerate a bit more the other traits. Okay, I think I'm actually happier with the cartoonization right now. So I'm gonna quickly make this a little bit bigger. And just quickly use my other brush of choice, which is the Shein Kim medium ink brush, and I'm going to quickly As you can see, I'm trying to go pretty fast with my brush here. Whenever I do line art, I try to apply force and direction to my strokes, so that even though it's one line and it's not a sketch, it still maintains the freshness and sort of dynamic feel of the original sketch. And as you can see, I'm trying to really kind of focus on how I can make all these shapes more abstract and less realistic, because I'm trying to push towards more, as I was saying, a more sort of cartoony feel. Mira says, how do you maintain force if the lines need to be smaller and shorter? Well, for example, I mean, this is like a bit of a cheat, I guess, but you can make, you know, your canvas a little bit bigger, so that even if the line is kind of short, you're still getting the same type of gesture like that you would get for a longer line, you know, if you were just on a less zoomed in part of your canvas, basically. And I mean, I do realize that's a bit of a cop-out, so what you can do is also to try and focus on the intention of your line. So like, know that even if a line is very short, like for example here for your like here for example when I'm doing the eyebrows, you can see these lines are very short, but I'm still trying to think, you know, there's a starting point to this line, there's a middle point where I'm going to, like, the starting point obviously is where you start applying the force. The middle point, you just kind of like keeping it going, and then the end, right? So you try and focus, even if it's very small. If you apply mindfulness to it, I think it works better, basically. But in general, I think the kind of like zoom in, zoom out kind of trick to be able to do the same sort of movement with the whole of your arm, and you know, that you would have if you were very zoomed out, you know, you have it with a very long line. If you're very zoomed in, you have it even for a very short line. Takes a bit more time, obviously, because you have to zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, but I think it's, you know, it works. And as you can see here, for example, I added this kind of hair that came out of her forehead, which of course doesn't have anything to do with the original reference photo, but reference photos are just for reference. So, you know, when you take one, feel free to change it, to make it more appealing, for example, in terms of pose or in terms of little details that might help you make the character design more appealing, for example. In my case, I just added that little hair because I think it makes the character look more kind of pixie-like, a little bit more, like, less put together, you know, less kind of sleek, which I like for this character. And what I do when I have to draw braids is that I kind of, in the original sketch, I draw the direction and kind of trajectory of where the hair have to go, and then you can just kind of use it to make your braids go that way. There you go. I don't know why I like the idea of having the two braids sort of being a little bit more dynamic than just kind of like straight down. I think it helps making the character more dynamic. And so, yeah, there you go. I'm done. I'm actually really happy that I tried to push more. I think in comparison to the original sort of more realistic kind of portrait, which would be kind of like what I default to, more basically I kind of default to a more Disney-esque style of drawing with really big eyes and kind of like smaller nose, almost no nose, and a small mouth, and you know, big hair, whatever, which is fine, it's fair enough, but at the same time I just really want to push more and kind of make it more abstract and see where I can go from there, if it changes my style a little bit, or you know, or just, you know, for fun and to explore new things. Mira says, I like the mix between the straight and curvy lines you use. Thank you. Yeah, and that's actually very important for rhythm and to give more appeal to your character, to try and alternate, you know. For example, here you have this really straight line and then the curvy one, and that gives more interest and more rhythm. Like the eye of the viewer can kind of like sail and flow on the lines that you've drawn, and therefore, you know, makes the drawing more appealing. Really sorry, there's a really loud ambulance going by. But yeah, so I am done with day 2. God, it's really coming like down the street, I think. Anyway, I hope you guys had fun watching me suffer for a little bit when I wasn't sure how to do this, but you know, in the end, I'm quite happy with the result. So I'm going to be posting this later on my Instagram, and you can catch this again. Obviously, if you haven't seen it now, you can watch it later. And yeah, tomorrow, Wednesday, tomorrow it's Thursday, today is Wednesday. Thursday the 3rd, we're gonna draw 5 blank faces with hairstyles from different angles, and then another portrait, but this time it's gonna be of an old person, so it's gonna be a little more difficult. Hi Manor! He's done with the perspective head studies, trade sketching traditionally. Nice! Manohar is one of my patrons, so I look forward to seeing the result on our patron-only Discord. And yeah, you can get the full calendar either if you're my patron or if you click on my landing page on my Instagram, and you just pop in your email and you'll receive the calendar, or a blank calendar if you want to make your own plan. I hope that you are keeping up with your artist reStarter, either with these exercises or with your own, and I will see you tomorrow kind of same time on here on YouTube. Hopefully not gonna have too many problems with the camera tomorrow.